So welcome to session 4. This is our last session, and our topic is empowering adolescents through school-based mentoring to drive social, emotional growth and provide career guidance. My name is Manish and I work with Mentor Together, and it's my pleasure to invite all of you, and I know it's been a wonderful day for all of us. From morning, we've been listening wonderful stories, experiences, insights, and I'm thrilled. And yeah, so a short intro about our session. So in this session, we will explore the transformative power of mentoring programs within schools, exploring how they help adolescents develop essential social emotional skills and gain valuable career guidance. These initiatives plays a pivotal role in shaping well-rounded, resilient individuals ready to thrive in their futures. And I hope all of you are excited to listen to some of our esteemed guests, and I'm going to call out their names. So it's my pleasure to welcome Shweta Gaur, who's on the dais. As she comes, let's welcome her. Let's give a round of applause to her. Shweta is the Engagement Manager, Research at Sattva Consulting. Shweta brings over 14 years of experience in the social impact sector, contributing to education projects across India. Her expertise in government and NGO partnerships has significantly advanced education quality across the country, and it's our pleasure to have her in the summit. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for coming. Joining her, we have Mr. Shubham Gupta. Let's invite Mr. Shubham Gupta on the dais. Welcome, sir. Mr. Shubham Gupta is the Innovation Lead at Atal Innovation Mission and the head of the Mentor India Initiative at Niti Aayog. Mr. Shubham oversees critical projects in educational innovation, including Atal Tinkering Labs, with a background in both IT and social sectors. He is dedicated to fostering a culture of mentorships and innovation. Sir, we are so pleased to have you in the summit. Thank you so much for coming. We have Purnima Garg, who will be joining online this evening. She was supposed to be here speaking in our summit in person, but some flight issues. Due to some flight issues, she couldn't arrive here in Bangalore, but she's with us, and we're so pleased to have Purnima Garg. She's the country director of Room to Read India. With over 2 decades of experience, she has dedicated herself to improving the lives of children, particularly girls, through education. Her commitment to gender equality has been instrumental in the success of life skill programs that empowers young women across India. We're so privileged to have you, ma'am, with us this evening. Thank you so much for joining. We have Ms. Archana Chauhan. Let's welcome her on the dais. Archana is the Associate Director of Operations at Mentor Together. Archana leads the design and implementation of digital mentoring program that supports thousands of young women in career development. Archana is the seasoned leader in building impactful mentoring solutions. Let's again give them a big round of applause. Okay, so I'll hand over the time to Shweta. The floor is all yours. Thank you.
Am I audible? Yeah, the after lunch session is the toughest to take, and I have dual tasks. One thing is talking to my eminent guest, and at the same time not let you guys sleep. So please help me in my task. I can't do it alone. So to start with, thank you so much, Manish, for the introductions, and I'm really honored to be sharing the dais with the guests and to be discussing such an important and critical thing about mentorship at school. And I think if I look around in this audience, none of us, when we were in school, we were exposed to this privilege of being mentored at the school level. And even now, when I speak with the interns, young interns, and I ask them, have you undergone any kind of career guidance or coaching? And they're really young. I'm talking about 22, 23-year-old kids, and they say, yeah, we remember once someone had come and talked to us. And I feel there would have been so many days spent in school, but they remember that one day. So it is really something which makes a difference in a child's life. Like after completing 10 years or 8 years of schooling, they remember that one day. Although the conversation was about, that was one day, and I just told them that you remember it. So it is important, and that is why I feel it is becoming more and more critical with the advancement of technology. And with so many new innovations coming, the children are completely in this whole space of becoming rich overnight without knowing the kind of effort that goes into it. And hence, it is like mentorship is. I think education has always had this whole component of mentor and mentee since the ancient times, but with the mass education coming in picture and commercialization, privatization of education coming up, this took a back seat. And when we look at India, which is sitting at the demographic dividend, this becomes like 2 days back, the editorial in Hindu had like, will India become rich before it grows old? And that's the kind of questions that we are facing. And when we were younger, we were thinking like, once we are getting into our demographic dividend, we'll be the world's developed nation. That was the aspiration when we were growing, and now we are worried. And we want to see what kind of decisions these youngsters make in future. And these decisions will depend on what we do with them when they are in school. And that will define their choices when they become adult. And that is why nothing is more important than career guidance and mentorship in this age group. And India currently, this is a new phenomenon which is coming, and it is spreading wings more in the college level, undergraduation, and school is still a niche area where we see this kind of initiative taking up. But there has been initiatives by the government, and several, I can say they are the thinkers who started early, like some 10 years back, 15 years back, who have been working in this space, and they are setting the norms. And so today we will be discussing a few of these initiatives which are already ongoing. And before I go into discussing the designs and the decisions that the different organizations have taken, I would just also like to acknowledge the role or the vision that National Education Policy has brought in. There has been an emphasis on career guidance specifically at the school level. And career guidance is one aspect. The other aspect of socio-emotional guidance for their well-being is also extremely critical. And the most important aspect is how do we build this balance in career and their socio-emotional well-being, and at the same time mentor them to achieve their best. As it was long time back I had read, like, we are preparing the students for the careers we don't even know that they will, what careers will be existing. And hence we have to prepare them for agility. We have to prepare them for emotional resilience. And that cannot happen only by career guidance or providing only by socio-emotional skill. There has to be a balance. And I am hopeful that today with this conversation we'll be able to understand this whole gamut of mentorship at school level. What are the challenges? And you are here, the ambassadors of this ambition or aspiration that we have. Like, how do we really make it mainstream? How do we consider it not a luxury to have a mentor, but a right for the child, that they should know that this is our right. We should be guided. There should be someone whom we can trust. So with this, I think a small emotional sharing with you all, I'll reach out to, I think, Shubham first. Shubham heading the Mentor India initiative of Atal Tinkering Labs, would want to understand from you, Shubham, like what, according to you, is the best possible design that has been working, because you are associated with for so long, and in 10,000 schools you have seen this thing of mentorship to take shape. What works? What are the challenges? And what is the best thing that you feel you should share that others can replicate it?
Thank you, Shweta, for setting up the context. So I am Shubham from Niti Aayog. You must have heard about a mission called as Atal Innovation Mission. Okay, I am part of that. Predominantly, I look after the Atal Tinkering Labs. I'll come on to what Atal Tinkering Labs are. But before that, as we speak about this session, so India right now has 15 lakh schools. Okay, this is massive. Okay, I guess this is one of the biggest democratic country having 15 lakh schools. Out of that, 11 lakh schools are government schools. Only 4 lakhs are private ones. Okay, so you can imagine the scale where we are operating on from the school perspective. Okay, out of these 15 lakh schools, there are 1 crore students right now studying in these schools. Okay, and 1 crore teachers teaching in these schools. Roughly about 3.74 crore students are teaching in these schools. So first of all, mainstreaming mentoring is a huge challenge. Okay, but there are programs, there are initiatives who are trying to at least make it as a framework or a pilot, or at least trying to do that. I'm coming on to that. What are these programs? So we run a program called Atal Tinkering Labs. Okay, it started in 2016. Okay, with a vision to inculcate the culture of innovation and entrepreneurship amongst the school students. So we often heard a term called as catch them young, catch them early. This is where central government came into a one think tank room and proposed ki how we can make students entrepreneurs, first of all, because we all know jobs are drying up. Students have to do startups, they have to do something of their own. And if not their own, at least they can do something like that, which is not heavily dependent on the employment by the government or by the industry. Okay, so that's where the vision started. And in 2016, the concept of Atal Tinkering Labs came into picture. So it started with only 10 schools across India. So those 10 schools were provided all the 21st century skills and equipment, necessary equipment, which are ranging from 3D printers, Arduino boards, sensors, etc., which help navigate these children towards acquiring those 21st century skills and to become at least, or to aspire to become an entrepreneur, a startup of their own, basically into the STEM technology. Okay, fast forward, right now we have 10,000 Atal Tinkering Labs. These are essentially the maker spaces. Proud to say that no other country has done that at that massive scale. So you must be a proud Indian to state that, ki, okay, this is the first country who have developed something of that kind for the students, school students. For the startups, there are countries who are leading the charge, but for the school students, there is no other country who has done that. Okay, so, but this Atal Tinkering Labs, the operations part of it, it's heavily dependent on teachers. Okay, a school has to appoint an ATL in charge. Atal Tinkering Labs, short form is ATL. Okay, so each school has to appoint an ATL in charge, who is the whole and sole owner of this Atal Tinkering Labs. They are being given an honorarium as well of a 5K per month to operationalize these labs, but largely it is very human dependent. Okay, and when 2016, when government started it, it was a kind of a risk capital, because we never knew ki, okay, how and what the direction it will take. And for these skills to acquire, we knew that not every teacher is equipped with this kind of skill, right? So they need some bit of an external help or a kind of a mentorship from external ecosystem who can help them. Okay, but before coming on to what has happened to help them, there are some of the very successful stories where the teachers have emerged as the equivalent to what has been kind of expected out of them. So there are several startups right now who have emerged out of these adult tinkering labs. If by going what the records we have procured for, right now there are 101 startups these school students have started who are registered, which are purely coming out from the adult tinkering labs. This is the data just if the startup has come back to us saying that we have come from this school and adult tinkering labs help them navigate that startup journey. So you can Google one of the startup called as Saaf Water. These are 4 different ATL students from 4 different states. Just joined together at one of the ATL marathon. This is a yearly challenge we run. Okay, a kind of a competition where school students have to submit a prototype, a working prototype solving a community problem. So these 4 students have come together solving a problem of contaminated water in the communities. Okay, and now they have a full-fledged their own startup called as Saaf Water. There are several other startups I can name and go on, but right now there are 101 of them, which is still a significant figure given that the journey of ATLs is still 7 to 8 years. Typically, a startup germinating from a school student typically takes 10 to 12 years of time. So we are okay. We are okay with what kind of the impact these ATLs are creating. Okay, so now coming back to the question, need of an external help. So this is an interesting program you all must be aware of. So Government of India opened a kind of a program called Mentor India, okay, to help these adult tinkering labs. Okay, it is a pro bono volunteer-based initiative where as a citizen of India, as a professional, as an academician, as an NGO partner, whoever you are, if you can just give back something to these adult tinkering labs, very relevant to them, to the teachers, help students navigate this journey of acquiring this 21st century skill, you are welcome to do so. Okay, so we started this in 2019. Okay, when we felt the need of that these schools need some external help because not all the teachers are equipped with these 21st century skills. And since Adult Tinkering Labs model is basically operating on teachers snowballing the skills to the students, we need some mentors to help these teachers. Okay, so right now we have 6,200 plus mentors in this Mentor India initiative, giving back their 2 hours, 4 hours of the time in a week to these adult tinkering labs. Each mentor can mentor not more than 3 schools in their vicinity. This is just to maintain the sanctity of both the mentor as well as the program. Otherwise, they are free to do so, the mentorship in their own region as well. So, and for the mentors, there are several recognition platforms as well. So when we see that these mentors are doing good job beyond their designated 3 schools, we also promote them as a regional mentor. So they can also mentor a region, or for example, a set of schools. For example, in Karnataka, we have 12 regional mentors of change. Okay, so what they can do, they can take a particular region, for example, Hebal area. All the adult tinkering lab schools of Hebal area can be taken up by one mentor. So, but this has to be very interest-based and the kind of the role they have played in their mentoring journey. So this is the program we are running. The program has shown a lot of promise where some of the students have gone on beyond what are being expected of that region. For example, there is a very rural government school in Bihar, okay, Begusarai, if anybody heard of it, Begusarai region. There is this kid who has done a very basic thing just to make an electric cycle. Okay, so no school in Begusarai, no ATL in Begusarai, in fact, no teacher in Begusarai know of these 21st century skill, but there are 2 mentors in Begusarai from Mentor in India initiative. kind of mentored these 8 schools in Begusarai, and there is this one girl who has made her cycle as the electric bicycle just by fitting up basic components of sensors and batteries in her cycle. And this girl is called as Electric Didi in Begusarai. And recently, Prime Minister has called on her to meet her to see what kind of innovation is being done. So when you work at scale, you have to think of multiple things. Like it's not only about the urban-rural divide. You have to think of the government-private schools. You have to think of the territory. You have to think of the demography, and that's how you design a kind of a program which is suitable for all. So that's about it.
Yeah, that's really amazing. I think my next question was on scaling, but I'll keep it for a while here, and would also want to know the kind of challenges or the biggest challenge that you feel comes in this whole connecting the mentor with the mentee, because this whole adult tinkering lab will be having, even one school will have maybe someone who's interested in electrical, someone who's interested in biology project, and so how does that selection happen?
So actually, this is a rolling basis. We open an application. So each month, the mentors are free to apply. This is on our platform, aim.gov.in. If anybody of you are interested, you can also apply. It's just that it requires some basic understanding of what I can say, electronics, STEM, engineering, mathematics, some basic understanding, because often we see that this is not to shy away from anything. If there is a lecture given at school on environment, schools might not feel it relevant for their adult tinkering labs. So you must have some bit of that relevant skill to mentor these adult tinkering labs. That's how the meaning of that particular program would be. And that's it. So it's a rolling basis application, and each month we select about 80 to 120 mentors, and that's how we generally meet the target of around 1,200 mentors per year.
Awesome. I think if we talk about the government schools, we have to think of scale, and that's an amazing effort. And kudos to the work. And I also remember what Shubham was saying. They are an extremely lean team. I think after the session gets over, ask him how many of these people are really executing it across the 10,000 schools in the country. You'll be surprised. I don't want to spill the beans right now. And now coming to Purnima. Hi Purnima. Thank you so much for joining us online. You'll not believe Purnima came to Bangalore. She hovered around in the clouds and went back. She said, Bangalore has too nice a weather. I'll still stay in Delhi. Was that the reality, Purnima?
No, thank you so much for having me join the virtual call. And yes, the clouds are bad here in Delhi. Somewhere around 12 flights got delayed and cancelled this morning. But I'm glad that I'm able to really contribute to this virtual meet. And yes, I will go back to Bangalore, whether through the clouds or whatever. But yes, I'm going to be back in Bangalore soon. So we take my time to meet with you.
Thank you so much, Purnima, for making yourself available. I can imagine early morning getting up, getting into a flight, and then going back to the same city. I'm still having the smile on our face. So
Amazing. And so on. So also Purnima, while Manish was reading out the introduction, he was talking about your gender initiative. Is there something that you would want to share with us about the socio-emotional skills, as what I heard from Shubham was largely focused on academic rigor and how we can we can navigate and mold the career aspirations of the students through initiatives at school level. And would love to hear your initiative from Room to Read as well here. And if you can bring in more insights on the girls and why specific girls, that would be great.
Sure, sure. Thank you. Shweta, I'll start from where you started the session to talk about why mentoring is so important. And I'll begin with a quote from Oprah Winfrey, who said, "A mentor is someone who allows you to see the hope inside you." And that's actually what we, through our programs, intend to do. Um, you know, uh, Mentoring is such a key skill, and Shubhamji talked about it, that how they have been really able to scale it up. But I think it's clearly very important for us to understand that when we are talking specifically about adolescents in India, they face a blend of academic pressure, social expectation, rapid cultural shifts, making social emotional skills essential for them to navigate these complexities. And mentoring enables these students to manage emotions, build resilience, make responsible decisions, and develop empathy, critical for personal and academic success. And the Indian education system traditionally emphasizes on academics and exams, often leaving the gap in social, emotional, and career focused education. So I think with that as a context and a background for our conversation, I'll just talk a bit about what Room to Read does, and Room to Read through its work in the girls' education is trying to dedicate helping girls complete secondary school and build life skills, and mentoring is a critical effort in meeting those goals. Transformative girl-centered mentoring that helps girls to stay in school longer, improve their health, safety, well-being, and so they can be successful in life and make positive changes. So, what is mentoring for us? And I'll talk a bit about that, because most of the organizations, they define the mentoring role is slightly different. And if I talk about it, because we have a lot of school intervention, and Shubham rightly said that, how if you have to think about a diverse landscape of education like India, the intervention has to be school based. We have to really um, you know, uh, this adolescent population that is going to be our workforce in. So keeping that in mind, for us, mentoring is a supportive relationship, which the beneficiaries of into the kind of take on. And while for the longest time we have worked with girls, we recently also started working with boys, because we also felt that it's not going to take us long if we only continue to work with one set of adolescents and not really focus on the boys, because they are equally populated. 47% of the adolescent population is female, but then the rest of the 53 is still boys, and we need to kind of work with both of them together. And one of the key components of our program is both group mentoring as well as individual mentoring. And group mentoring, is a it provides a space and an opportunity for the girls to explore challenging issues, practice and develop their life skills, to create important social bonds with other girls and the mentors also. Because most of the time we also realize there is always this, workforce crisis. We will always have these lean structures. We may not be able to have those kind of ratios wherein we are saying that there will be a 1 is to 20 kind of mentor and child or student ratio, so to say. So keeping that in mind, we also try and create a culture or a dynamic through our program wherein a group of girls, a cohort of girls that are there in the school, or the boys that are there in the school, they're also kind of becoming mentors for each other. And that is somewhere that social emotional bond kind of gets created. And the individual mentoring really allows girls and their mentor to focus on specific issues that the girl is facing. This could be like school absence, family issues, poor test performance. They can discuss the issues and make a plan together to address it. A mentee can ask for individual mentoring session on the mentor, and uh, in the individual mentoring, the mentor would also try and work with the community at the parent level. Go and talk to the community stakeholders. I think this role of mentoring, scaling up of mentoring programs is extremely important. Because as you rightly said, that one day in their life, in their school life, they were able to remember that they could speak to God. And we have a lot of success stories wherein, people have really, really gained from these conversations, from these mentoring sessions, whether it is group mentoring or individual mentoring. And through, while we may still call it a girls' education program, but we have been at an intersection of dealing with multiple social issues, which could be, avoiding early marriages, talking about reproductive health, we try to be responsible for the psychological, cognitive, and emotional well-being. So those are larger, I would say, areas that we work around with our girls' education program, and mentoring being one of the key program elements there. And throughout the country, so far, we of course do not have a scale what shouldn't be mentioned because it's largely the government area, but we've been so far able to work with 2 lakh girls, and we work closely with 15,000 schools across the country.
Much for sharing your experiences of working with girls, and I'm thrilled to hear that when you said that if you work only with girls, the desired results may take longer. So shifting the attention to boys as well, because not that boys are greatly benefited in this space. They both need mentorship equally, and I also. Felt that whole concept of peer mentoring and including that whole aspect of reproductive health, and through like in my research career also, where I was working on maternal and child health, and girls not knowing anything about their own body, and not being able to speak or discuss anything within the with anyone. Like with boys,
Yeah.
our research highlighted that they could still speak with their friends and peers, and they had a way to give words to their queries at least. And that was also a very very scary thing, that getting learnings or knowledge from their own peer group. And so the initiative is amazing that you have shared, Punima. What I am my the next question that comes to my mind is again, like, what is the biggest hurdle or challenge that you faced when you were working with it, and how you pivoted to overcome that, because it's there are many things that are being taken care of in this program.
Sure. So, one of the biggest challenge for us, Shavita, would be, if I talk from my experience of being in the country for 20 years, we've been running this program. We still continue to face this challenge either from the school authorities or from the community, because the way the life skills sessions are designed, so it would, let's say, talk about the girls' right, it will talk about role models, it will also kind of make girls aware about abusive relationship, preventing pregnancy. We talked about safety, early marriage. So, these are some of the aspects wherein we are even trying to um, uh, uh, make girls more aware of their rights and the choices that they can make for themselves. Keeping that in mind, sometimes um, as least as like that whether we can include um, a session on a healthy and a safe behavior in a grade 6 versus introducing that in grade 9. Community even comes and interferes because there's so much of social conditioning around it. Whereas things happen, why would you want to make people aware of such things at a younger age, vis-a-vis why they should be only knowing it at when they are in grade 9. So, and I'm just, I can give an example. There are multiple things around it. That's one of the challenge. Um, am I audible clearly? Yeah, okay. So that's like one of the challenge that you continue to face both from school authorities as well as from the community. And sometimes there are always those cultural um, boundaries that you will kind of get stuck into. Because each state has its own culture, each region has its own culture, and how culturally, how ingrained socially these factors are there. So sometimes you have to kind of put that as a negotiation on the table. And that's why I'm categorizing it in a challenge than a risk because there is still a negotiation that's really available. And we have, of course, seen given now the NEP into the mainstream, when you kind of correlate all of these programs with 21st century skills, somewhere there is always a room for negotiation, I would say, with both stakeholders. The second challenge that I would, look at is sustaining the program. And because as a civil society organization, a non-profit organization, you can only have an intervention till the time you are funded or say your program design allows you, because ours is a very long program. We have 7 years of intervention with the girls. So, but then there would always be, what happens to the program, and we would only take, say, 3 cohorts and work with them till 7 years. So, in a school, our intervention is 10 years, but then what happens when the interlead goes away? How are we then strengthening the system? How are we then strengthening the community to be able to create more mentors? So one of the things that what we try and do is to make sure that the mentor that we hire, we call them social mobilizers, first of all. So the one we are hiring is actually from the community, local community. We train them, of course, and they're well trained for 18 weeks before they hit the ground on so many other things. And of course, there are basic criteria how you could hire them. You kind of make it more sustainable. And then the whole idea of group mentoring and creating those people group mentoring also becomes so critical because we also know, and I'm just talking about the girls right now, um, when you are educating the girl, you are educating the representations. So it is not the girl who's there in that mentoring program who's getting mentored, but it is also her siblings, her friends in the community who are probably coming to the school or not coming to the school, or her dadi who's narrating her the story in the night, or some other people around her. So I think that's creating that peer level mentoring as well as you know, having from local communities have a much better acceptance and sustainable factor into it.
Yeah, I think everyone over here will agree to this thing. Like the more we involve the community in such kind of social movement that we and social change that we want to see, the better and the quicker results we get. And amazing solutions that you have found, and I'm sure the the trained community or the social mobilizer that you have moved ahead also, that's the best idea of keeping it sustainable, because if we just teach one woman, it's the community that gets taught. And if you, here you are giving a vision and aspiration for to this women to change the existing status quo, and I'm sure there will be a movement building which in few years we'll be able to see. Yeah, thanks Purnima. Archana, here there are so many things like how government is, Mr. Shubham shared the government's initiative, Punima shared the vision for socio-emotional well-being of girls and the challenges thereof. Like from the Mentor Together's program, I would want to understand more about, because the kind of socio-emotional skill development that initiative that Mentor Together has taken up at the school level, would want to know like how do you understand the requirement of the mentee and connecting the right mentor to it. If you can throw a little bit of light on this aspect, and also the design, how you organically built your mentorship program around that.
Thank you, Shweta, for this question. Yeah, so to set this context of school-based mentoring and how we anchor it in socio-emotional learning, capacitating that child to deal with different emotions and social skills per se is, first thing I want to contextualize is our classrooms in general in public schools are overpacked with young children, like, right? So to get them to the school is a big task. Like many organizations are doing commendable work to actually get them to the school. But our question, and to address this through mentoring, is how we can retain them in the school. Because it's those 8 hours child is coming to school, you're providing different facilities for that child to actually study. But what happens to the child before coming to school and after going back to house is something which is way different than the reality, than what we actually envision for the child. So mentoring is a very important tool which connects the child in terms of our program with an adult who is non-parental adult. And at the same time, every child, we believe in this classroom, in any classroom of especially public schools, is in requirement of mentoring. So to say, every child in this world is, but when we actually want to see what are the prioritization, that's how we see. But when we see a class filled of children, we then still ask questions. Do we have enough resources to actually give that every child that deserves a mentor? So then we thought that let's understand who are those children who are in most need of the mentorship. And that's how we see mentoring as a personalized, invested resource that we can provide to child. Now, when we go to public schools, we see that there are children coming from different conditions. And we need to analyze, assess them on the risk factors they are facing. And that is how we see children who are facing elevated personal or family risk factors. And there is also a series of process that we do with the children. I'll speak to that. But when we work with children, we start working with them in grade 8. We continue to work with them in grade 8 and 9. The core program that we implement with them is mentoring. And those are personalized mentorships that we provide them. We connect them with an adult mentor who is non-parental. At the same time, we focus on the life skills. When we talk about mentoring relationships, the structures, we focus on life skills. And the way we select these children are, we understand their eligibility through self-reporting mechanism. So there are eligibility surveys which ask them certain questions on the risk factors that they are facing at the personal level. It could be bullying experience in the school. It could be absenteeism. It could be difficulties in adapting to school academic requirements. It could be family, which is where that child is a single parent child or has conflicts with primary caregivers or parents. At the same time, child is facing drastic situations at home like alcoholism or to some extent physical abuse at the home also. So when we look at this self-reporting, we go back to these children and understand through the parents' visit, through the home visits. So it's a very intensive process through which we arrive at number of risk factors the child is facing. And when we understand and corroborate this information of self-reporting through parents' visit, through the home visits, we deep dive into engaging them into smaller activities to understand what are their aspirations, what are their challenges, and how do they see themselves in future. So there are very different activities, engaging activities. We spent about 3 to 4 hours with group of 15 children to understand this. This information is very important for us to match to the right kind of mentors. It is still a qualitative process for us. And we do activities like art activities, letter to future self. We ask them, there's this fun activity called ship activity. So all of these are trying to understand what are the risk factor and what are the challenges, aspirations of young person. And once we are done with this, because it is going to be a program which will introduce them to a non-parental adult, a stranger, we also seek their parents' permission towards that. And there are limitations when deciding the venues for this child to meet the parents. It's going to be only school or their home or community within 1 kilometer radius. So this is just a structure, but what I want to focus on here is that the 3-year work we do in grade 8, grade 9, the child is meeting the mentor every month, at least 4 hours. That is 2 to 3 sessions they do with the mentors. In grade 10, we also touch base on the career aspiration for them, because when we understand that socio-emotional skills, ability to connect with their parents, ability to have conversations with their primary health givers, at the same time ability to manage their emotions better, and most importantly, ability to see school as an important contributor to their aspirations. So having that positive reinforcement towards academic, because that's where we have seen, and unfortunately, most often when we go to schools and ask them to refer children, or when we are doing all of these processes, which is pretty independent of what the teacher says to us, we will end up being told that take this child is creating a lot of trouble in this school. So unfortunately, this is also looked at like correction behavior. So you give them mentors, they will be sorted with their behavioral issues. So it's always a balance that we have to maintain while we work with stakeholders, rationalizing how we are selecting children for this program. And it's not going to be for each and every child they refer or in the school. So this is about the selection process. Most importantly, the focus of the program, like I said, is life skills. And these activities, the framework of the entire program is built in the relationship of child and mentor. So most often in mentoring programs, there are 2 different formats. One, the end of the program, the end goal of the program is to have that relationship built. And the second format or type of programs that mentoring is that you use relationship as a base and build a goal on it and anchor that goal through that relationship. So the former side is something which we looked at more often for the school program. So the idea of the program is that the child gets mentor for next 2 years and also does activities which are focusing on life skills learning through the journey, life cycle of this mentorship. So now the framework is for 4 different critical stages. So this pair always will go through 4 different critical phases, which is first connect, level, empower, and evolve. Each of these stages will have a module around it, structured activities, because often if there is no activity, whether it is an in-person program and the remote mentorship that Mentor Together is implementing, in the absence of activities or structure to a mentoring conversations, it's likely to fade out soon. So we always provide that structure to conversation of mentor and mentee. So when we talk about the first stage, which is connect, it kind of emphasizes the need of relationship building between mentor and mentee, which focuses on activities which are of common interest, activities that build trust for the child, between mentor and child. Mentor shows up and there's a consistency. So these sessions are derived from the fact that those 2 to 3 months that the child spent has to develop that trust within the mentor. Mentor has to show up consistently. So there's a lot of on-ground monitoring which happens during these times. The second stage when we talk about is level. Essentially, like we have understood from the plenary session also, that Indian context of mentoring is Guru Shishya Parampara, where there is always going to be an authoritative position for mentors to come with. Like, I am here to give you all information. Of course, it is true, and young people can derive and make less mistakes in their life, although it's nothing to say that they will never make mistake, they will keep on doing it, but still make less mistakes. So here in this situation, we encourage mentors to have that reversal mentoring. Here we say that let's dilute your authority and try and help mentee understand what are different hierarchy based relationship, that power relationship that they will face in life, and let's start with you and equalize this relationship so that your mentee is learning to give feedback, including you. I mean, they can tell you that, no, bhaiya, I don't want to do this. Probably this is not what I think. You might think that I should go back and obey my parents. This is the reason, I have my valid reason not to do that. So those are the conversations we encourage through this segment, which is level. And it emphasizes that mentoring is an equally rewarding experience. So it's at equal level. So we hope that within this stage, the mentor and mentee are at equal level. And that is where the true learning starts, because the next phase, which is empower, which has a rigor of skill learning, which comes with emotional management module, emotional learning module. It comes with social skills, interpersonal skills, and most importantly, attitude towards academics and school. How do they develop it? And it also helps young people to see the value of school, looking at their own aspirations, realizing their own potential, realizing their dream. Because it is in the context of their aspiration that they understand the value of the school and what that school is going to contribute to. And then they start building those corrective measurements or necessary relationship with the teachers also. So it enables them to start those dialogues with either their teachers or their parents or their peer, essentially. So at the end of this program, which is about a year and a half of this mentoring program, the last phase we talk about is evolve, which is actually phasing out of that formal relationship. So how do you say goodbye to your mentor, or how do you summarize your learning with your mentor? How do you plan your goal? And whatever goal you have planned in the segment where you actually were working on your skills, how do you actually come up with short-term steps towards that? And that is where the program also culminates in career orientation workshops by the time the child is in 10th grade. And by the time we actually do these career orientation workshops, the child has a fair understanding of the strength, abilities, aptitudes, because that's also a part of the process that they will do with their mentors. So this is about the program. I'll speak to this process. But at the same time, when we start the program and end the program, we have certain parameters. But because often when we say that we want mentoring to impact young children and learn emotional management skills, social skills, better peer-parental relationships. How do we measure that is always a question. So these are psychometric skills through which we understand where they have progressed, to what extent they have progressed in these learning of skills. To undertake this is just quite a simple impact study, which the RCT study which we conducted along with in collaboration with CBPS. So we studied about 200 young people mentored between 2015 to 2018, and it had a treatment group and control group. The learnings so we studied similar parameters of risk factors, and we realized that the mentoring program had a large effect size in building social and relational skills between their peer and primary caregivers, that is their parents. So that's where we saw the maximum impact, highest impact. The second, that is medium impact, we saw in social emotional skills that the children built for themselves when they completed 3 years of mentorship. The least effect, that is small effect, we could see was in academics and their improvement in grades. So naturally, this entire program did not cater to the fact that they performed well in their schools or performed well in their academics, but the other aspects which are very important probably when they navigate through next lifetime in their, so they were having better ability to establish relationship with adults, because the benchmark that they set off with in the beginning was always like, adults are of no use, they are never going to appreciate me, because that's how they have seen at homes. So, and it is very important for young person to start trusting adult, because if they grow like that, it's very difficult for that child to actually survive and trust adults when they come up in the adult life. So that's an important takeaway. So today when we talk about scale and all, those are all pain points we all share together, and we will talk to those pain points also. But I feel the process is very important, and it also ties to the kind of scaling model we could envision, because these are still luxury things which when we look at the portion of mentors, the pool of mentors and all of those. But I feel that this process is very integral to mentorship, the kind of relationship it is built, the kind of mentors, the attributes the mentors are trained on. Of course, every mentor, so there are mentors who are natural mentors, but at the same time, it is not that none of us cannot be mentors, even if we don't have natural, because those are learned skills. So there are research enough, we can learn those skills, we can actually practice those skills and start mentoring a child. And that is where our entire process of mentor training, mentor selection comes up. So to this program, when I talk about how did we take a route of, just to speak to the challenges of volunteers, mentors, we used to match professional mentors, adult mentors to the children. So we all had geographical barriers, which school they can go, which school they can pick up children, or to be matched with the children. And when we were looking at this, we realized that it was not the career domain or industry experience of that mentor was important or a key to the relationship. What was key to the relationship was consistency with which that mentor could show up for the child. At the same time, ability to create that relationship, build that connect with this young person. So that's how we decided we'll pivot this program in terms of how do we get our mentors. And we thought of collaborating, and this was a pilot project just before pandemic we could do this, that we collaborated with National Service Scheme in few colleges in Mumbai, and we had a strong relationship, 1 year working relationship, NSS, and we could rope in and recruit stipended mentors who are NSS students essentially, and the college students, and that's where we had major learning when it comes to exploring a very different profile of mentors, because mentors are always like experienced people, adults, but at the same time when we actually worked with this profile of young people as mentors who went to schools with sufficient training, understanding of curriculum, and did their mentorship an entire year, a lot of it was understood as a reverse, a mutually benefiting learning that these mentors spoke about during the qualitative analysis we did at the end of that program. And here we understood that very important skills like building empathy, building social skills with the child, having an understanding of how a particular social intervention will be implemented within communities. These were all important learnings for these college students who were in NSS, and most often they also had thought about developing, say, their own career aspiration into social sectors or psychology, social work. So these were also career aspirations that they started off with. And at the same time, the impact that we saw in the children was also equally powerful that we could have seen with adult mentors. So that was an important learning for us also, to see that how we can address the gap of mentors. And then the next question, I think we'll also talk about how we can, institutionalize or scale it.
Yeah. I think that would be like, how do we scale is the next session that we will be taking ahead. But thank you so much, Archana. And I love the process that you had mentioned about level, evolve, empower and evolve. And the biggest takeaway from here is that whole consistency and commitment and the relationship that you spoke about between the mentor and mentee, and that goes not only for the adolescents, I think for us also to be able to share what is our challenge is, first thing is that trust that has to be built. And thank you for bringing these 2 points and also helping us understand the challenge of connecting the mentor with the right mentee. And I think I was hoping to have a round of questions after this session, but quickly I think I'll take 2 minutes from all three of you, and would want to understand that what kind of support from the government, NGO, and philanthropy will enable this whole conversation of mentorship at school level a mainstream conversation. Career guidance has still picked up a bit, but like how this whole mentorship can enable a balance between career guidance and socio-emotional skills in the child. And that is where like this is I think the last question which I'll just roll around all three of you, maybe starting from Shubham, in terms of how what support is needed and how you feel, since your presence in so many schools, that we can ensure that this conversation is mainstreamed in next 4 years, 4 years.
Sure. So, actually, when we say that each students deserve a mentorship, uh, who will eventually tell them that you deserve this? Okay, who will tell them? So, I guess this is the onus on the government side, okay, to roll out a kind of a movement which we may call it as a national mentorship movement kind of a thing, okay, to reach at that particular scale. When we talk about a crores of children, when we talk about the lakhs of schools, there must be a movement, okay. There are multiple organizations doing fantastic jobs, but they are working in silos, maybe targeting towards few particular skills to empower these students. For example, let's say life skills, STEM skills, um, adolescent girls, and something like that. Can we roll out a kind of a movement where all these skills are available for the schools to get mentored on in a national mentorship portal kind of a thing? So there is a tech involved. There are roles of NGOs. There are roles of these organizations involved. And eventually every stakeholder will come together to roll out this kind of a movement. So maybe government can roll out such a kind of a movement, but government will need some facilitators to do that. And that's where the role of these organizations can come into picture. So let's say, for example, if a school needs mentorship on life skills, maybe XYZ kind of organizations can come into picture. If they need something on tech side, these kind of organizations can come into picture. And that's where a kind of an altogether a complete movement can take place. And if that kind of a movement take place, schools must be able to raise their hand. It's not that mentoring must be imposed. They must raise their hand कि okay, we need mentorship in this kind of a domain, we need mentorship in this kind of a domain. We can't go to the schools कि okay, let me offer you this kind of a mentorship. We are available with this kind of mentorship. No, schools must be aware of what they actually need, and that's how they actually raise their hand. And that's where they must have some kind of a support system. They actually should know some kind of a support system where they can kind of go and click some buttons and can get to know, okay, this is the thing where I can join.
Yeah, thanks, Shubham. Purnima, would love to hear from you as well.
So I think, of course, Shubham said it rightly to set the context. But to top it up, I would just think that, mentoring should be mainstreamed. And we see a lot of, just not a policy to practice gap, but there is also essentially a policy level gap at this moment. So I would actually also think, just to add a plus to what Piranji was saying, is to say that we will have to have, an advocacy to kind of look at making mentoring as a mainstream. Because when you mainstream things at a policy level, when the government takes the ownership, be it through a movement or at a policy or at a mission level, we have actually seen uh, the change, the social change that comes in. And then the school system will largely be influenced. So, we work with different departments, whether it is the school department, the education department. So, how these two departments could, work around it. And we are specifically then talking about adolescents. And then, sometimes I also feel that adolescents are also the most invisible, while they are the largest population in our country, they're also the most invisible population, so to say, because neither they are sitting in women and child ministry and nor they are in the mainstream. So somewhere at that level, I think we all will have to kind of brainstorm, and civil societies, government, all the stakeholders will need to come together, as rightly said. So I would just think that's largely what we have to really focus on. A short term and a long term is, of course, to then look at policy to practice gap and how we could help the school systems to adopt a larger mentoring program and inbuild the capacities of pre-service teachers and in-service teachers to make sure that they understand that they're just not the teachers, they're also the mentors. And, because workforce is a scarcity, we are not able to fulfill the positions of the teachers. If we additionally now add mentoring as a new workforce stream, and India is such a big scale, to meet all those requirements, to start and take some small steps, it's also important for the teachers to understand and make sure that they understand the meaning of mentoring and how that can be useful for their children in the classroom.
Yeah, Purnima, completely aligned to you on this. I think, and just when you were talking about increasing the pool of teachers and building their capacity, the government of Haryana came to my mind, where they have really created a new space for mentoring at school level, and they've announced that they're going to hire mentors for schools. And this is one of the initiative, I think, one of the many which will come in the times because the conversation has started. I'm sure more actions will follow. Yeah, Archana, your point.
Yeah. So we understand that there is a need to work on both supply and demand side, so to say. So the advocacy, the integration into the academic cycle for young people in school is equally important. At the same time, when we look at models of where do we get our mentors from, I think they're leveraging various infrastructures that we have in higher education. So tapping into the college students, where especially they are studying and aspiring for humanitarian studies. At the same time, the stepped care approach that certain organizations have adopted in mental health services. So even we all know that mental health services are compared to our population are rare, very few in it's not something that everybody can access, whether it is psychologist or psychiatrist. If you have to derive a parallel, if we know that all children need mentors, and that's something which is probably an expert mentor is something which is difficult to access, can we think of a stepped care approach that basic emotional support and social skills learning and opportunity to do that can be made accessible by creating a trained set of mentors, a cadre of mentors, like we have ASHA workers. So it is to have that last mile support, which is immediate and required. And once there is a need to have a more expert service or a support in terms of any clinical aspect, or where we need trained people, we bring in those people. But at least a basic service, a basic requirement of the support reaches, whether it is academic support, whether it is, I know like there are a lot of organizations which are working on that segment, but whether it is how to build relationship with adults, or how to manage their own emotions better. At the same time, we also looked at how it can have a caseworker approach, because when we have a slightly trained mentor, their ability to work with multiple children, probably in one-on-one setting, is always good. So we look at this as casework approach, where social workers can take up about 10 to 12 mentees, and that's how we can integrate. If there is any parallel infrastructure within communities, within villages, and there are many examples organizations have set up where they have trained community leaders. Room to Read is one of the remarkable example of it. So I think that is something, because mentoring is still a niche field, comes with some amount of training, and it is multidisciplinary learning for a mentor also to actually take on that role of mentor. and connecting mentees. So I think that is important. And an aspect of how we can make it as a professional youth mentoring, which comes with stipended approach, which comes with a caseworkers and social workers approach, is something which we can always understand, and how we can build it into infrastructure of higher education or already existing resources within the government setup or community setups.
Great. I think we couldn't have had a better panel to explain us. There were talks about advocacy level, policy level, and at the same time, Ashna brought us ground level implementation also. So, love the way you have talked about breaking those silos. Like a college student has to be college student. Like how do we build those skills which can be mutually beneficial? And thank you so much for three of you for sharing these interesting inputs. And we live in a country where we have the youngest adolescent population. And when Purnima was mentioning our invisible adolescents, it really stuck hard. Like they need to be heard the most, because their decisions are going to define what we become as a nation in the years to come. And thank you so much to the audience also who have been patiently sitting. And this is your turn. Something which you want to share or ask the panelists over here. Yeah, please.
Hi. So, when we are discussing about scaling this initiative at a larger scale, especially, and the question is to both Shubham and Archana, over there, why are we not talking about parental involvement? I understand that there might be certain set of challenges over there, but until we have that kind of a cadre ready, probably like ASHA workers, pan India, why can't parents be involved or trained in a way wherein they can help the students or children with basic necessities?
So it's a great question. So there are models where parents are also important stakeholder when it comes to mentoring programs. I think there are two approaches. One, how you work with parents, and in case of children who need parents' existence around, like in terms of disability, it's important that the parents are also equally participating. But when we talk about a particular mentoring relationship, most often you will find children being dejected by parents. When we talk about children who come with that specific need of having one-on-one support to cope up with the existing scenarios or cope up with the life, and then going beyond those challenges, learn skills which are important for them to transition to adulthood. So most often we have seen lack of parental support, lack of family support has been the contributor of the challenges that the child is grappling with. So there, most often we have seen that parents can come in, but the child has to start negotiating for that. And that gap is difficult if we only work with parents. Most often when they are absent, and it could be any scenario. It is not necessary that the parent has to be an alcoholic and never be at home. It could be a simple fact that the child is a single parent child and mother is always working, or both parents are working, because that's a reality. Otherwise, so those are the situations we are today talking about. Like, yes, we have seen having parents have also played important role in connecting, ensuring that the mentors are meeting young people consistently. Most often parents have been advocates of mentoring program in our programs also. We have taken that buy-in, and that's why we always ensure that the parents, teachers are participating in this mentoring program. So we are not at all negating. In fact, if there are parents but they are not doing mentorship, because there is an authority, and there is always be a implicit strained relationship, that's why always, if you have to look at the mentors and definition of mentors, most often they will be non-parental adults. So I think that is one thing. And second important thing to notice is the young people that we work with come from a background where parents are not able to guide them on aspirational aspects when it comes to realizing their potential, helping them to explore different career options, and helping them to understand how they can navigate through that aspect of their life. Most often parents themselves are working have been into have stuck into social mobility issues, and that is where mentor plays an important role. So second facet of the mentorship is the having such mentors is that ability of them to pull that child out of that social orbit and help them to actually connect that dot and come back, like, start propelling towards something which is more aspirational, more skill based opportunity. So that is where we see always. But yes, having parents on the side of the mentor is always a great achievement for programs.
Question with whatever he said, because I had a word with Arundhati on the same line. So probably I think what I understand from is any session which you take on the parenting to also make them understand how important it is.
Yes, so
No, probably I get you where you are coming from. If I am correct, it is like about mentoring the parent to take up that role of mentor.
So
If
maybe
it,
not taking up them the role, but ultimately some or the other way, it starts from home, right? So even mentoring to the parents, that how important it is that, they have to evolve. Like if we say Waldorf school, so the culture what they have, they do nurture kids, but they also nurture the parents. So that's the thing which I'm trying to ask.
no, I guess this is a fantastic question, so to say. Uh, yeah. Yes, something to say? Yeah, go ahead, please.
No, Shivam, I think I would let you complete first, but do you want to complete first?
No, I guess in my point of view, for example, if you tomorrow roll out a program, this is a like kind of a scenario which we are facing right now. Tomorrow you roll out a program that each one parent in this room has to sign up for a mentorship program. I guarantee you, each one of them will sign up. Each one will take up at least 10 mentees, but each of these 10 mentees will not be their children. I guarantee you. So
Yeah.
that is the real challenge, because people are taking up is as a kind of a profession or kind of an institutionalization or getting a recognition, but not understanding that parenting or mentoring itself is a skill which they need to impart to their children. And there are multiple kind of a factors which involves that, which I guess she has rightly pointed out that either right now we are facing that both the parents are working, they don't have the enough time to mentor their children on that particular skill, or there are multiple factors for it. But uh, having a non-parental mentor itself also kind of a boon for a children, because there might be some skills beyond parenting and beyond mentoring in certain skills which this mentee might get. So this is my personal point of view.
Yeah, so I think I want to, start with my own example. I'm a certified life coach, but I would never like to coach my own children. They would never sign up to coach with me. So parenting in itself is a skill. Let the parent parent. Okay, so let them do their parenting job. And that's where we need to have a demarcation that sometimes the caregiver role and the mentoring role has a clear demarcation. While a parent can have extra care, and we could really talk to them, most of the parents are also going to the counseling that how they can parent their children better. So let the parents parent the children, whereas mentoring is a very specialized and a skilled role which goes just not beyond the care, but it is also helping the child to take lifelong learning decisions. So I would just request our audience to understand that mentoring is a specialized skill and we should not try to dilute the two. Otherwise, we will not be able to reach at the level that what we are wanting to achieve through mentoring. And the purpose of these two are absolutely separate. So that's the point that I can just add on top of what Archana has said, what Shubham has said. already.
Thank you, Purnima. So, some of the attributes of mentors, if I tell you what research says, probably you'll understand why not parents and mentors. So, mentors we always say has to be non-judgmental. We say that has to be non-prescriptive. Should believe in the agency of child. Should believe in the decision-making process of child. Help the child along the decision making, not influence decision making. So these attributes, if we look at these, there is always, like I said, is going to be that conflict within these roles when we talk about parents, and that is how child will learn agency. Having to understand, critically think about their situation, and in the absence of prescription, take their own decisions and be responsible for their own decisions. So I think these are core learning processes when it comes to mentor and mentee's relationship, and that whole process of learning is very, very different than parenting. So yeah, already the foundation is same. Probably there is compassion, there is care, there is nurturing, there is providing some resources in different ways, but the approaches are very different when it comes to mentoring, and those are critical and foundational to learning process of a child in terms of skills.
Can I just add a sentence here? As a parent, I I am a 70s born guy. I myself was a little rebel. I had a rebellious attitude towards what my parents were saying, and I was not agreeing to, their opinions when I was growing up, when went in college and all that. Probably that is one of the attitude. I hope I will not be wrong if I'm saying that kids do have that kind of a rebellious attitude, and that's why parents may not be the right mentors as per the mentor's definition. And so there should be somebody who's external who can actually judge, not be judgmental on those points, and give an opinion or suggestion or a guidance, which the parents may not be able to give. Am I right?
That's how children learn to make mistakes and learn from those.
Yeah, I think it's a clear verdict here. Parent, be a parent, and let mentor do their job. So thank you for being a wonderful audience over here, and thank you for not sleeping also after lunch in spite of having such a lovely lunch. And I think these kind of conversations are always taking us a step ahead towards the goal that we want to achieve. And when I was listening to this conversation of parent being a mentor or not a mentor, the researcher in me was also shouting that there is very little research done in these spaces. We really need the good defined frameworks of what is a mentor and Indian setups. We are really borrowing a lot from the Western world, where culturally they are very different from Indian culture. And I hope we get this whole appetite from the philanthropy to invest in research and generating evidence from ground in terms of how and what works in Indian scenario, what kind of frameworks can be replicated. So I hope this mentoring workshops and this event, which is happening for the first time in the country, continues, and we take these conversations further. Thank you so much.
Just a last note on this is, because we are collectivist culture, like India is a collectivist culture, so we believe in families and elders guiding, and then there is an individualistic approach, which is very important for children to actually learn and take their decisions and have that agency of decision making. I think that balance is something which again brings us back to the foundation of mentoring. I think that is very important. Both of them have very important contribution, but when we talk about what is mentoring and what is mentor's role in this, I think that there's a lot to actually derive from this individualistic ability of mentors guiding mentees to take their own decisions.
Please remain seated. Yeah. Okay, I think we can give a big round of applause to our panelists for sharing their valuable experiences and insights.